For almost 100 years, the galaxy had known nothing but fire and sorrow. Every star system seemed touched by the long war. Empires rose and fell like waves, each claiming they were fighting for peace, justice, or survival. Yet every battle only created new enemies, new hatred, and more broken worlds. The Galactic Council was once the symbol of unity. It had been formed to prevent such destruction, to bring order among hundreds of civilizations. But the Council had lost control. Its fleets were divided. Its members no longer trusted each other. What began as a small border dispute had grown into a galaxy-spanning nightmare. On the edge of the known systems, far from the chaos, there was a blue planet named Earth. Humanity had advanced quietly. While other species fought for dominance, humans focused on learning, observing, and building. They watched the news of alien wars through deep space relays and said very little. To the Council, Earth seemed weak and uncertain. To the warlords, humanity was just another minor species that stayed silent because it feared real conflict. But those who studied human history knew better. They saw something strange in the old Earth archives, a species that had fought endless wars on its own world, a people who had rebuilt again and again after near extinction, a race that had turned conflict into an art of survival. Still, humanity did not join the galactic war. When the Council sent invitations asking Earth to send fleets, the humans politely declined. When the warlords demanded tribute and soldiers, the humans said they were neutral. They traded technology and medicine but refused to pick sides. Their leaders claimed neutrality was the only path to peace. In the great halls of the Council, alien ambassadors mocked them. "The Earthborn speak of peace because they fear war," one reptilian delegate said with a hiss. "They have no warriors, only dreamers." Others laughed, calling humans cowards who hid behind their atmosphere while others bled across the stars. Yet deep below the calm cities of Earth, in underground facilities hidden beneath mountains and oceans, humanity was not idle. Quietly, without public attention, engineers worked on something far beyond the understanding of outsiders. Armies trained in silence. Fleets were constructed in hidden shipyards on the far side of the Moon and Mars. Every move was deliberate, careful and unseen. On one cold evening in Geneva, the Human Council gathered in a room without cameras. The leaders sat around a long black table. Screens floated in the air showing the latest reports from the galactic front. Billions of lives lost, fleets destroyed, worlds burned. The council chair, a calm woman named Mara, spoke first. "The war spreads faster than ever," she said. "Our satellites show heavy fighting near the Orion sector. Entire civilizations are vanishing, and now the Galactic Council itself asks for our help." Her second-in-command, a man named Rian, leaned forward. "Do we answer? The others call us cowards for standing aside." Mara looked around the room. "They do not understand us. We have no need to fight wars of pride. Our soldiers do not die for insults. We move only when it matters." Another voice spoke from the end of the table. It belonged to Admiral Keon, commander of the Terran Defense Fleet. His uniform was simple, his eyes sharp. "I agree with the chair," he said. "But make no mistake. Our silence is not weakness. The day will come when this war reaches us, and when that happens, the galaxy will learn what humans have prepared for." The room fell silent. Each leader knew the truth. Humanity was not ready to reveal itself. Not yet. Far away, in the center of the galactic conflict, worlds were falling faster than the Council could count. The Draken Empire's fleets clashed with the Zoran Dominion, while the Volari Confederacy tried to hold the line. Millions of ships burned in orbit over nameless planets. Whole populations vanished under the shadow of plasma storms. The Council's messages to Earth became more urgent. They begged for intervention, for medical aid, for soldiers. At first, Earth sent only supplies, food, medicine, and drones programmed to rescue civilians. These small gestures were welcomed, but they could not stop the war. The Council leaders grew desperate. One day, a message arrived at Earth's Central Command. It came directly from the High Speaker of the Galactic Council. His voice trembled through the hologram. "To the humans of Earth," he said, "we know we once mocked you for your silence, but we can no longer stand against this. The war consumes everything. Our fleets are gone. Our worlds are dying. You have remained untouched by this storm, but if we fall, it will come for you too. We ask not for control, not for glory, only for help." When the message ended, the Human Council gathered again. The air was heavy with unspoken thoughts. Mara turned to Admiral Keon. "You said once the day would come when the war would reach us. Do you believe that time is now? Keon stood, his face unreadable. It has already reached us. They do not see it yet, but every dying world, every broken ship, it all moves closer to Earth. If the council falls, the warlords will come for what we have. They always do. Ryan folded his hands. Then we prepare. We answer their call, but not as they expect. We do not join their chaos. We end it. Mara gave a slow nod. Then it begins. Within hours, silent commands spread through Earth's hidden networks. In the orbital shipyards, massive engines roared to life. On Mars, the red dust rose as war factories powered up for the first time in decades. Across the solar system, fleets that had never been seen by outsiders moved from their hiding places. Ships coated in black armor with no visible markings glided into formation. They carried weapons that did not exist in any known database. At the same time, human soldiers began to move. They were not ordinary troops. Each was trained in multiple environments: zero gravity, deep oceans, alien atmospheres. Their armor was adaptive, their minds disciplined. They had studied every alien strategy ever recorded, and every mistake made by the Council's forces. News of the human mobilization spread quickly through the outer systems. At first it was disbelief. Many species refused to believe humans even had a fleet. They were supposed to be peaceful, quiet traders, scientists, and explorers. But then the first images arrived. Massive carriers leaving Earth orbit. Destroyers forming into precise lines. Thousands of drones moving like a single living organism. Across the galaxy, the laughter stopped. In the council chamber, the alien delegates stared at the feed in silence. They are actually coming, one whispered. Another asked, do they even know what they are walking into? The high speaker watched the screen as a single human transmission reached the council. It was short, calm, and direct. We have received your request. Stand by. No threats, no speeches, no emotion. Just 3 words that sent a chill through every commander in the war. Meanwhile, on Earth's flagship Vigilant, Admiral Keon stood before his crew. The bridge was quiet except for the hum of the engines. He looked out at the stars, then at his officers. For a century they have fought over who should rule, he said. They forgot what rule means. They forgot what peace costs. We will remind them. The officer beside him, a young pilot named Lena, asked softly, Sir, do we plan to take sides? Keon's eyes stayed on the stars. No, we do not take sides. We end wars. The fleet began to move, each ship vanishing into the silent void. Across the galaxy, sensors flickered as unknown signals appeared. The warlords tried to track them, but failed. The human fleet used systems that bent light itself, moving faster than any known drive. Back on the Council's homeworld, armies prepared to defend what was left. They expected the enemy, not the humans. But then strange signals reached them. Reports of entire enemy flotillas vanishing from radar, communication lines going dead, and debris fields appearing where fleets had been only hours before. No one believed it at first. The commanders thought it was a trick. But when the Council finally made contact with one of its surviving scouts, the alien captain spoke in a trembling voice. They came out of nowhere, he said. No warnings, no demands. They destroyed everything in minutes. Their ships moved like ghosts. They did not even answer our hails. The council chamber fell silent. One delegate whispered, humans. Far beyond their reach, Admiral Keon's voice echoed through the command bridge. Mark every hostile fleet within this sector. Target the command ships first. We will make it quick. The battle for the galaxy had entered its final stage, though few yet understood it. And while alien worlds burned under the fire of their own pride, humanity, quiet, patient, and unseen for so long, finally stepped into the light. Their time had come. The war that had lasted a century was about to face something new, something it could not comprehend. The war across the galaxy had reached its breaking point. For years, fleets had burned and empires had crumbled, but now even the proudest powers stood on the edge of ruin. The stars themselves seemed dimmer under the endless storms of plasma fire. Whole sectors were reduced to drifting metal and silence. The Galactic Council, once a mighty alliance of hundreds of species, was now a shadow of its former self. Every day, new distress calls filled the airwaves. Worlds that once mocked the Council now begged for help. The Draken Empire's warlords had shattered the defensive lines of the Council's last fleets. The Zoran Dominion used planetary siege weapons that cracked continents open. Refugees fled from system to system, carrying stories of worlds that vanished overnight. The Council's archives overflowed with messages of despair, and even their capital world trembled under the fear that their time was ending. Inside the high chamber, leaders gathered in silence. Their faces showed exhaustion and fear. The high speaker, an old being with deep gray eyes, rose from his seat and looked around the room. "Our armies are gone," he said. "Our fleets are broken. Even our allies have turned against us. If we do not find new strength, this war will consume every star we have left." No one answered. They all knew the truth. There was no one left to call for help. No one except the humans. A murmur went through the room when the high speaker finally spoke the forbidden name. "We must reach out to Earth." The words echoed like thunder. Many stood up in shock. One of the reptilian ambassadors shouted, "You cannot mean that. The humans abandoned us. They sat in silence while we bled." Another delegate from the Valari Confederacy added, "They refused every alliance. They do not care about the rest of us. Why would they help now?" The high speaker's tone remained calm, "Because if we fall, they will be next. The warlords will not stop. Once they control the core worlds, they will move toward the outer systems. Humanity's silence will not protect them forever." The chamber fell into uneasy quiet. No one wanted to admit it, but he was right. The war had already spread beyond control. It would reach Earth soon, no matter how distant that blue world seemed. After long debate, the Council sent a message across the stars. It was short and sincere, a plea written with the last of their pride set aside. "To the people of Earth," it said, "the galaxy burns. The enemies of peace draw near, and the Council stands at the edge of defeat. We humbly ask for your aid. Help us restore what remains before all is lost." The transmission traveled through space, carried by old communication arrays and deep space relays. Many doubted it would even reach Earth, but within hours an answer came back. It was a simple message, calm and measured. "We have received your request. Stand by." No emotion, no threats, just those 3 words. The Council members looked at one another, confused and fearful. What did that mean? Would the humans come, or was this their way of saying no again? While the galaxy speculated, far away in the Sol system, Earth's skies were alive with movement. Hundreds of ships ascended through the atmosphere, leaving long trails of light behind them. Around Mars, massive dockyards buzzed with activity. Ship crews rushed to their posts, loading supplies and weapons. Commanders reviewed maps of enemy positions, preparing for something that had never been seen before, a human fleet entering a galactic war. Inside the flagship Vigilant, Admiral Keon stood before a vast holographic map of the galaxy. Around him, his officers moved quickly, scanning reports from across the front lines. "The Council's capital world is under siege," said one officer. "Their fleets can barely hold the orbit. The Draken and Zoran are closing in from 2 directions. Keon nodded slowly. "Then that's where we begin. We cut off their advance, restore the defensive line, and push back every fleet that stands against them." Another officer asked, "Should we coordinate with the Council's command structure?" The Admiral shook his head. "Not yet. They will slow us down with politics. For now, we move under our own command." From the bridge windows, the fleet stretched into the darkness. Hundreds of ships floated in perfect formation. Their hulls were black, absorbing the light around them. Engines glowed with a soft blue shimmer. There were no banners, no bright colors, only function and purpose. As the countdown began, the crews sat quietly at their stations. Many were veterans who had never fired a shot in anger. Yet each one had trained for this moment for years. They understood the weight of their mission. Humanity was stepping out of the shadows for the first time in galactic history. When the final order came, Admiral Keon spoke calmly into the comms. "All units jump to coordinate point Alpha. Maintain silence until contact. Engage only confirmed hostiles. The objective is not conquest. It is conclusion." The space outside rippled with energy as the fleet vanished into the slipstream. The stars stretched and blurred, then were gone. Hours later, they emerged near the edge of the Orion sector. What greeted them was chaos. Thousands of alien ships filled the void, locked in brutal combat. Explosions flashed like lightning, lighting up wreckage fields. The human fleet slowed and formed a defensive wall. One of the sensor officers gasped. There are at least 5,000 enemy vessels ahead. Council ships are falling back toward their last fortress. If we don't intervene soon, they'll be wiped out. Keon gave a single nod. Signal all ships. Prepare for engagement. The first wave of human fighters launched from the carriers like a cloud of steel insects. They moved with unnatural precision, weaving between enemy formations. The alien fleets noticed too late. Within seconds, hundreds of enemy ships lost engines and shields. Human weapons struck with surgical accuracy. Rail cannons tore through armor, and focused plasma beams cut cruisers in half. On the Council's flagship, commanders watched the impossible unfold. "Who are they?" one shouted as he stared at the readings. "Their ships are too fast, their weapons are unknown." A communications officer cried out, "They bear no banners, no identification. They move like machines." But the high speaker knew. His voice trembled as he whispered, "Humans." For the first time in years, the Council's fleets saw their enemies retreat. The Draken warlords, known for their brutality, began to pull back, unable to match the precision of the human strikes. The Zoran Dominion tried to regroup, but every formation they built was broken apart within minutes. In the command bridge of the Vigilant, Admiral Keon stood silent as his officers reported success after success. Enemy flagship destroyed. Sector clear. Council reinforcements re-established. Keon finally said, "Mark this battle's duration." 2 hours and 40 minutes, sir." "Too long," Keon replied. "Next time, we finish faster." After the battle ended, wreckage drifted quietly among the stars. The Council fleet moved cautiously toward the human ships. Their communication lines buzzed with disbelief. The High Speaker sent a direct message to the Vigilant. "This is the Galactic Council," he said. "We thank you for your intervention. We did not believe such power still existed among the civilized races. Who commands your fleet?" Keon's image appeared on their display. He stood straight, calm, his uniform plain, and his voice steady. "I am Admiral Keon of Earth. You called for help," we answered. The council chamber filled with noise. Many spoke at once, asking questions. "How did you defeat them so quickly? What weapons do you possess? How long have you been preparing?" Keon's reply was short. "We prepare always. We do not fight for pride. We fight when peace is no longer possible, and when we fight, we end it." The connection ended before the council could respond. Across the galaxy, word spread faster than light. Entire civilizations stopped to listen to the reports. The human fleet had destroyed the largest enemy formation in less than 3 hours. To some it was a miracle. To others it was terrifying. The warlords who once mocked Earth now held secret meetings. If they can do that to the council's enemies, one said, what could they do to us? Meanwhile, the human fleet continued forward. They did not rest or celebrate. Each crew followed orders with quiet discipline. The mission was not over. The galaxy's war still raged across dozens of fronts, and humanity would not stop until every threat to peace was removed. In the quiet of the command room, Admiral Keon stood before a large window watching the wreckage fade behind them. "Mark every hostile fleet across the nearby sectors," he ordered. "We move again at dawn." His second officer looked at him curiously. "Sir, what will we tell the council when they ask what we want in return?" Keon's answer was calm. "We want silence. We want the galaxy to remember that peace is not something given by talk. It is earned by those willing to end chaos when no one else can." Outside the window, the fleet adjusted course. Engines glowed as the ships prepared to jump once more. Far away on the council's capital world, the High Speaker stood on his balcony looking up at the night sky. The stars shimmered faintly, and for the first time in decades, there was no sound of explosions, only the distant hum of peace. He whispered softly to himself. Perhaps they were never cowards. Perhaps they were only waiting. The galaxy held its breath, unsure whether to feel hope or fear. The humans had entered the war at last, and in mere hours, they had changed everything. The day humanity arrived on the main front became the day the galaxy changed forever. For years, the endless war had filled space with smoke, wreckage, and fear, but when the human fleet came through the slipstream, even the most hardened commanders stopped and stared. Across the stars, alien eyes watched as thousands of human ships appeared from nowhere. They came in silence. No speeches, no music, no bright banners, only cold precision. The ships formed their lines with exact timing, as if each vessel was part of one living machine. The largest of them, the flagship Vigilant, moved to the center of the formation. It was darker than space itself, with armor that absorbed light instead of reflecting it. Its engines burned a deep blue, steady and calm. There was no fear in the way it moved. It was the movement of something that had come to end a storm. In the Council's main war room, the surviving leaders watched the live feed with disbelief. Many whispered among themselves, "Are those truly human ships?" one asked. "Their design is unlike anything we have seen." "They carry no insignia," another added. "No declaration, no signal of allegiance." "What if they attack us too?" The High Speaker stood silently before the screen, his expression unreadable. "They came because we asked. Now we will see what that means." Far from the Council's world, the battle for the Orion Gate had already begun. The Draken Empire's largest war fleet was stationed there, a force of over 5,000 ships, guarding the most strategic route between the inner systems and the core worlds. For months, they had crushed every attempt to take the gate. The last Council fleet had been destroyed trying. But now, human ships appeared on the edge of the system. The Draken commander, a towering creature with scaled armor, laughed when his officers reported the intruders. "So the Earthborn finally show themselves. Let them come. We will burn their small fleet like we burned the others." His laughter ended quickly. Within moments, the human fleet activated their systems. Thousands of drones launched silently into the void, spreading in perfect lines. No music of battle followed, only quiet focus. On board the Vigilant, Admiral Keon stood with his hands clasped behind his back. His officers watched their screens, tracking the enemy's positions. "Enemy fleet is forming up," one reported. "They are locking weapons." Keon nodded once. "Open with precision strikes." No warnings. No speeches. A hum filled the bridge as the main cannons charged. From the sides of each human cruiser, bright streaks of light shot into the distance. The weapons struck faster than sensors could register. In less than 10 seconds, 200 enemy ships disappeared from the map. The Draken commander shouted in confusion. "What are they using? No shield can block that." But his words were drowned by the noise of his own ship breaking apart. In space, the human fleet advanced like a silent storm. They fired only when needed, each shot perfect. Their targeting systems didn't miss. Their drones struck command centers, power cores, and weapon mounts with mathematical accuracy. Within minutes, entire Draken formations collapsed. The alien crews tried to respond, but the humans never gave them time. They used short bursts of communication, single words of command that echoed through the network. "Advance! Target! Fire! Move!" There was no panic. No shouting, only calm discipline. In less than an hour, the mighty Draken fleet that had terrorized half the galaxy was reduced to burning fragments. The Council fleets, stationed several light minutes away, could only watch in awe. One of their commanders whispered, "They fight like they have done this 1,000 times before." When the last enemy signal vanished, the human fleet stopped firing. The silence that followed was almost peaceful. Keon looked at the map, his voice even. "Damage report. Minimal, sir." "2 ships have sustained armor loss. No major casualties," he nodded. "Recover all drones. Begin cleanup operations. Transmit to the Council that the gate is secure." The officer beside him hesitated. "Sir, the Council will want to know how we did this." "They will not understand," Keon said quietly. "They think victory comes from numbers. It comes from preparation." Messages soon flooded the Council channels. "The humans have taken the Orion Gate. The Draken have fallen. The war might finally turn." On the Council world, the news brought celebration. For the first time in a century, hope spread across the galaxy. Refugees cheered. Soldiers wept. The High Speaker ordered lights to be lit in every capital. But among the leaders, there was also fear. If humans could destroy an entire armada in an hour, What else could they do? In the next few days, the pattern repeated. Wherever the human fleet went, the war ended quickly. In the Scion Belt, they broke the Zoran Dominion's line in 40 minutes. At the Turnus Nebula, they destroyed 3 fortified stations without losing a single ship. Each time, they fought with silence and precision. Each time, they disappeared into slipspace before reporters could reach them. The Council tried to contact them, but the humans rarely answered. When they did, their messages were short. Sector cleared. Civilian zones secured. Proceeding to next objective. To the galaxy, humanity became both savior and mystery. They were not conquerors, but they moved like one. They didn't occupy worlds or demand tribute. They simply ended every conflict and vanished before anyone could thank them. In one of the Council's private meetings, the High Speaker gathered the senior members. "The humans act alone," he said. "They do not coordinate with our fleets, yet they always arrive where the fighting is worst. It is as if they already know what will happen." An elder strategist replied, "Perhaps they see the war as something to fix, not to join." The speaker nodded slowly. "Or perhaps they are teaching us a lesson." Meanwhile, in the command room of the Vigilant, Admiral Keon stood before the fleet's core officers. The map of the galaxy floated before them, marked with hundreds of red zones. "These are the remaining conflict sectors," he said. "We will move through them one by one until peace is restored. No negotiations with warlords, no truces. Only finality." The officers exchanged glances. One of them, a young communications specialist named Mira, spoke softly. "Sir, do you believe the Council will truly learn from this?" Keon's gaze was steady. "If they don't, it won't matter. They will remember the silence that followed." The fleet moved again, this time toward the Vega Reach. It was the most dangerous sector, filled with massive fortresses and minefields. The enemy commanders there were known for their cruelty. They had destroyed entire worlds to make examples. When the human ships arrived, the enemy tried to send a message. "Earth fleet, you have entered restricted space. Leave now or you will be destroyed." No response came. Instead, the human fleet spread out in a perfect arc. Their weapons charged. In the next instant, light filled the system. Every fortress, every defense platform, every enemy command ship, gone. The battle lasted only 34 minutes. When it was over, Admiral Keon gave a single order. "Transmit a signal to all sides. The war ends now. Those who surrender will be protected. Those who continue will face the same." The message reached every corner of the galaxy. For some, it was a warning. For others, it was salvation. In the days that followed, the remaining warlords sent envoys begging for peace. They offered ships, worlds, and wealth, but the humans refused all of it. They asked for nothing. They simply told the warlords to lay down their arms and rebuild their worlds in silence. In the council chambers, the leaders tried once again to reach Admiral Keon. When they finally connected, the High Speaker bowed his head. "Admiral, the galaxy owes your people everything. You have saved us from destruction. Tell us what Earth asks in return." Keon's voice was calm. "We ask for remembrance. Do not let this happen again. If peace fails, we will return. And next time there will be no warnings." The line closed, leaving the council silent. In the outer systems, the last human ships completed their missions. The war was truly ending. Across the galaxy, fleets powered down, soldiers returned home, and planets began to heal. But even as peace returned, humanity remained distant. Their fleets stayed on the edges of known space, watching quietly. They spoke little, yet their presence alone was enough to keep the peace. On the bridge of the Vigilant, Admiral Keon watched the stars drift past. The younger officers around him looked tired but proud. Mira approached and asked softly, "Sir, after all this, do you think they will remember what we did?" Keon looked out into the dark. "They will remember the silence. That is enough." Far across the stars, alien worlds rebuilt under the quiet watch of human ships. No one dared start another war. They didn't fear humanity's weapons, they feared their calm. The war that had burned for 100 years was gone. The galaxy had been remade, not by speeches or treaties, but by the arrival of one quiet fleet that came, fought, and ended everything in mere hours. The galaxy had never known peace that came so quickly. For 100 years, battles had filled every sky. Now, after the human fleet's arrival, silence spread across the stars like dawn after a storm. The fire that had burned for a century was gone, replaced by a quiet so heavy that even the winds on dying worlds seemed afraid to move. Everywhere wreckage floated, remnants of the countless fleets that once fought for power. The Draken warlords had surrendered. The Zoran Dominion had sent envoys under white flags. The Council's fractured allies had rejoined out of relief, not loyalty. The war was over. On the surface of the Council's capital world, the air still smelled of smoke. Cities were half ruined from earlier bombardments. Yet for the first time in living memory, no sirens echoed through the streets. Civilians stepped outside their shelters and looked up at the night sky. The stars were clear. No enemy ships, no fire. Only distant shapes, dark, silent, watching. Those shapes were human. The fleet remained in orbit above the planet, not to rule but to ensure peace. The Council called it protection, but everyone knew the truth. It was a warning. Inside the Council's grand chamber, leaders from every surviving species gathered once more. The atmosphere was different now. There was no shouting, no pride. Every delegate sat in silence as the High Speaker addressed them. "We have seen what the humans can do," he said slowly. "They fought not for territory, not for gold, not for revenge. They came. They destroyed every weapon that threatened peace. And then they stopped. They asked for nothing." One of the younger delegates raised a trembling hand. "Do they plan to stay?" The High Speaker looked toward the giant window behind him, where the human flagship Vigilant drifted in the sky like a shadow. "I do not know. They have given no word." Far above, aboard the Vigilant, Admiral Keon stood on the observation deck. The stars reflected off his faceplate as he watched the planet below. The war was done, but there was no celebration. Around him, officers worked quietly, recording data and checking reports. Commander Mira stepped beside him. "Sir, the Council has requested an audience. They wish to thank you personally." Keon did not turn away from the stars. "Send my reply." "Yes, sir." "What should I say?" "Tell them the same thing we told them before. We came because they asked. We leave when peace is certain." Mira hesitated. "And if they ask when that will be?" "When they learn to keep it without us." Down below, the Council chamber received the message minutes later. The High Speaker read it aloud, his voice low and thoughtful. "They will leave when peace is certain." An older delegate, scarred from years of fighting, said, "They mean to watch us, not rule us." Another nodded. "They are not conquerors. They are guardians who do not want the title." The High Speaker said nothing more. He only looked again at the sky. Across the galaxy, the aftermath unfolded. The surviving warlords were captured and brought before the Council. Entire armies laid down their weapons. Planets that had known only destruction began to rebuild. Human engineers, quiet and efficient, landed on shattered worlds to restore power and communication grids. They asked for no payment. They left behind no monuments. On one burned colony world, a small alien child watched a human soldier kneel and hand her a ration pack. The soldier smiled, saying nothing. When the child asked if they would stay to protect them, the soldier only answered, "You must learn to protect yourselves now." News spread of such moments. To many, humans had become a legend. Not saviors, not gods, but something more human. Beings who acted when all others failed. In the following weeks, the Council called for a universal truce. Every member world agreed. Even the most aggressive empires signed it without question. They had seen what happened when humanity moved. Yet rumors began to grow. Some claimed the humans possessed ancient technology older than any species. Others said they had studied every alien war for centuries, waiting for the right time to act. A few even whispered that humans had predicted the war long before it began. Admiral Keon ignored such talk. To him, none of it mattered. What mattered was the peace that finally existed, fragile as it was. One evening, he stood in the command room, reading reports from across the sectors. The map of the galaxy glowed with green lights where red once burned. Mira approached with a datapad. "All hostile fleets neutralized. Reconstruction underway on 27 worlds," she said. "The Council requests a timeline for your departure." Keon looked at the map. "Not yet. Too soon, and they will fight again." We stay until silence becomes normal. Mira nodded. And when it does? Then we disappear. Like before. Outside, the human fleet began to shift formation. Some ships broke away, heading toward damaged colonies. Others stayed to guard key systems. To the watching worlds, it felt like an unspoken promise. Earth would not abandon them, but it would not stay forever either. Meanwhile, among the council's members, new debates began. Some wanted to keep the humans close, to build an alliance stronger than before. Others feared them, saying no species should hold such power. The High Speaker listened to both sides, then said quietly, "Perhaps power is only dangerous when used for ambition. The humans have none. That is why they are strong." In one corner of the galaxy, a group of former generals met in secret. They had once led massive fleets, and pride still burned in them. "The humans destroyed our armies in hours," one said bitterly. "They ended what we could not finish in a century. How long before they decide we are a threat again?" Another replied, "Then we make sure they never see us as one. We rebuild quietly, in peace." And for the first time, those words were not a threat. They were a choice to live. As months passed, the silence deepened. Trade routes reopened. Colonies sent envoys to each other instead of warships. The galaxy began to remember what life without fear felt like. On Earth, news of the victory spread slowly. There were no parades, no songs of triumph. Humanity did not celebrate. They simply continued working, knowing that the peace they gave the galaxy would last only as long as others believed it could. In an underground command center, the Human Council met again. Chairwoman Mara sat at the head of the table reading reports. "It is done," she said. "The galaxy rebuilds, the Council honors us, and yet we remain hidden." Admiral Keon appeared on the screen. His face was calm as always. "Hidden is safe. Let them think of us as myth. That will keep them careful." Ryan, the strategist, asked, "Do you trust them to keep the peace?" Keon paused. "Trust is not the right word. Hope is." Mara nodded. "And if they fail, then we return." The galaxy knows what that means now. For a long moment, no one spoke. The silence felt both comforting and heavy. They had saved countless lives, yet no one wanted to do it again. Above the council's capital, the Vigilant turned slowly, its engines glowing faintly against the black. Its presence was enough to keep every system quiet. Ships that once carried weapons now carried aid. Soldiers became builders. One night, as the human fleet prepared to leave orbit, the High Speaker requested one last communication. Keon agreed. When the transmission opened, the speaker's face appeared, old and weary but grateful. "Admiral," he said, "on behalf of every living world, I thank your people. You brought us peace when none believed it possible. I only ask one thing before you go." Keon inclined his head slightly. "Ask." The speaker's voice trembled. "Why? Why did you help us after we mocked you and ignored your warnings? You could have stayed safe." Keon looked at him for a long time before answering. "Because we remember what it feels like when no one helps." The connection ended. The Vigilant and its fleet turned away from the council world, engines igniting as they slipped into the void. Across the galaxy, citizens watched their departure in silence. Some cried, some saluted, and others simply stood still, realizing they had witnessed something that would become legend. In the days that followed, peace held. Not because of treaties or politics, but because of memory. Every ruler, every soldier, every child had seen what happened when the humans came. No one wanted to see it again. In the quiet halls of history, scholars would later call it the silence after fire. It was not a silence of fear, but one of understanding. The war had ended not with glory, but with calm. Humanity had not come to conquer. They had come to remind the galaxy of what peace costs and what it means to lose it. Months had passed since the Great Silence began. The stars that once burned with warfire now glowed quietly in their peaceful orbits. Across the galaxy, ruins were being rebuilt. Fleets were being repaired, and planets that had been dark for generations were slowly coming back to life. The galaxy had changed forever. The Galactic Council had reformed into a smaller, humbler version of what it once was. No longer filled with pride or endless debates, it now focused on rebuilding, listening, and learning. The memory of humanity's arrival still echoed in every discussion. No one dared raise their voice in arrogance. Every leader remembered the calm voice of Admiral Keon and the sight of black ships that had ended a century of destruction in only a few hours. On the Council's capital world, a new monument was being built in the center of the plaza. It was not made of gold or crystal, but of gray stone. It showed no faces, no names. Only one inscription was carved across the base. Peace is not given, it is kept. Children came to see it, asking their parents what it meant, and each time the answer was the same. It is what the humans taught us. In the grand chamber, the high speaker addressed the assembly once more. We live because they acted, he said softly. But we must live better so that they never need to act again. His words carried across every world linked to the Council network. For the first time in 100 years, his speech was not followed by argument. There was only silent agreement, but far away, beyond the edges of the core systems, in the darkness where few dared travel, the human fleet remained. They had not returned fully to Earth. Their ship still drifted at the edge of known space, quietly monitoring the galaxy's recovery. They did not interfere. They did not speak. They simply watched. Aboard the flagship Vigilant, Admiral Keon stood at the command deck, hands clasped behind his back as he looked out at the stars. The war was over, but he knew peace was fragile. His officers worked around him in silence, reviewing data streams from the recovered sectors. Commander Mira approached him, holding a data tablet. Sir, reconstruction reports are positive. The Council has restored order to 45 systems. Refugee transports are running again. Trade has reopened. Keon nodded without looking away from the stars. And what of the warlords? Most are gone, Mira said. The remaining ones surrendered months ago. Some have joined the reconstruction efforts. Good, Keon replied. Keep them busy. Work is the best cure for vengeance. Mira hesitated, then asked quietly, Sir, what happens now? Do we finally go home? Keon turned to face her. His expression was calm but thoughtful. Home is where peace is needed. For now, that still includes here. Mira smiled faintly. The Council fears us, even now. They think we could end them as easily as we saved them. Keon's voice remained steady. Let them keep that fear. It will remind them of the cost of war. He looked again at the distant stars. Fear of destruction is not peace, but it keeps them from foolishness. Eventually, they will learn to choose peace because it is right, not because they fear the alternative. Meanwhile, on the Council world, daily life began to resemble what it had been before the war. Markets reopened, schools filled again with students, farmers planted in fields that had been abandoned for years. The wounds of the galaxy were healing. In one classroom, a teacher showed a group of children an old image of a human soldier handing food to a starving alien child. Who knows who this is? She asked. A small student raised his hand. That's one of the humans. The ones who ended the war. The teacher smiled. Yes, but do you know how they did it? Another child answered. They fought harder than everyone. The teacher shook her head gently. No, they fought smarter and only when they had to. They didn't want to rule us. They wanted to teach us. That's what makes them different. The children nodded slowly, their eyes wide with curiosity. For them, humanity was not a legend of destruction, but a story of wisdom and restraint. Elsewhere, the Council continued its efforts to contact Earth formally. Each message sent was polite and respectful, but most went unanswered. When the humans did reply, it was with brief updates or advice. Rebuild your defensive systems. Focus on education, not expansion. Do not forget the cost of pride. No one questioned these messages. They were accepted as guidance, and even the most powerful species followed them without protest. One day, months later, a small council ship was permitted to approach the human fleet. It carried only 2 passengers, the High Speaker and his assistant. As their shuttle approached the Vigilant, they stared at its vast form. The closer they came, the smaller they felt. The ship was silent, dark, and without ornament, but its presence alone carried the weight of an entire civilization's strength. When they entered the command hall, Admiral Keon was waiting for them. The High Speaker bowed deeply. "Admiral, it is an honor to stand before you." Keon inclined his head slightly. "You wish to speak?" The speaker nodded. "Yes, I came to express the gratitude of every living world. We live today because of your people. But I also came to ask, what now? Will humanity lead us?" Keon's gaze was steady. "No, you will lead yourselves. You built your council once. Build it again, wiser this time." The speaker hesitated. "And if we fail? Then we return," Keon said simply. The answer carried no threat. It was a promise. Before leaving, the speaker asked one final question. "Admiral, may we know why Earth waited so long to act? Why not sooner, before so many died?" Keon's voice was quiet but firm. "Because some lessons can only be learned in silence. The galaxy had to see what endless pride creates. You were ready to listen only after the noise stopped." The speaker bowed again, understanding at last. "Then we will remember. Always." When the shuttle departed, the Vigilance crew stood in silence. Mira turned to her commander. "They truly see us as something more than human now." Keon replied, "That is their choice. We remain who we always were. They just never looked closely before." He walked toward the bridge window where the stars stretched endlessly ahead. "We were never trying to be heroes. We only did what was necessary." Mira stood beside him. "And what will we do when the galaxy forgets again?" Keon's eyes stayed on the distant horizon. "Then we remind them again. That is what humans do. We endure, we rebuild, and when the time comes, we stand." Over the following years, humanity quietly withdrew from the center of the galaxy. Their ships vanished into deep space, leaving behind only a few observation beacons and communication stations. The Council tried to track them but could never find their true locations. It was as if the fleet had melted into the stars themselves, but their presence was still felt. Whenever tensions began to rise between worlds, mysterious signals would appear in the sky. Sometimes it was a single black ship, passing silently through orbit, visible for only a few minutes before vanishing again. Each time it happened, arguments ended and peace returned. No one questioned the meaning. Generations later, songs and poems were written about the humans who came from the edge of the galaxy to end the Great War. They were remembered not as conquerors, but as the bringers of balance. Children would grow up hearing the phrase, "When the humans come, the war ends." On Earth, however, there were no statues or celebrations. Humanity had returned to its quiet life. Cities thrived. Oceans were clean again, and technology advanced beyond anything the galaxy could imagine. But there was no pride in what they had done, only a deep understanding that power was a burden, not a gift. In a quiet mountain facility, Chairwoman Mara met once more with Admiral Keon. The room was dim, lit only by the glow of the stars outside the large glass wall. "The Council has rebuilt faster than expected," she said. "Their unity holds, at least for now." Keon nodded. "Then our work is done. We watch, we wait, and we hope." Mara looked at him. "You think they will forget?" "Eventually," he said. "All civilizations forget, but when they do, they will look up at the stars and remember the silence. That will be enough," she smiled faintly. "And if not, then the fleet awakens again." Far above the planet in orbit, the Vigilant rested like a shadow among the stars. Its engines were silent, but its systems were awake. Its crew remained ready, calm, and patient. Humanity's greatest weapon was not their technology, it was their discipline. And somewhere beyond the edge of the Milky Way, the faint signal of the Vigilant continued to pulse through the dark. A single message repeating endlessly through the void. Peace is not a promise. It is a responsibility. Across the galaxy, every world heard that signal. Some understood it, others ignored it. But all of them knew one truth. The humans were still out there watching. The galaxy slept in peace, guarded by those who asked for nothing, expected nothing, and spoke only when silence no longer worked.